Welcome to the Redirect Podcast. We appreciate you joining us and listening to our conversation about finding your purpose in retirement. I'm Adam Kalemba, and I am joined with my friends Curt and Dale. How are you guys doing?
Doing pretty well, Adam. How about yourself?
Awesome. Dale?
I am happy to be with you guys to have a little conversation.
All right. Fellas, have you ever had a coach that had a big impact on you?
Oh, yeah. I had a friend called Jerry Rushing. He's been there for me in business. Just a tremendous background in coaching skills and life skills. And Jerry's just been somebody who's always been there. I mean, I can pick up the phone and call him. He knows who I am, and I can throw questions at him. And he gives me the direction. He gives me the pushback where I need it. But it's somebody who I count on, I trust. When you have somebody who I think is a coach, it's somebody you trust.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones that can give you what you need.
Yeah, and mine's a little different because I didn't necessarily think about the mentors in my life. I was thinking about the opportunities that I had through my career being in sporting goods, that I've had the pleasure of being firsthand to see Lou Holtz and Pat Riley. And what I love about a coach is how a coach can inspire and how a coach can reach down deep, really driving me to be the best I possibly can, to help me through difficult times, to encourage me in great times, and to make me a better person. And that's what I sort of enjoy the coaching aspect.
Well, hopefully we get to do that today with some of our listeners. Today we're talking about redirecting your well-being and coaching you to better health.
That's right, Adam. Today we have a very special guest joining us today, and we're very thankful to have Deanna Rowe. Hello, Deanna. How are you today?
Hi. It's nice to be here.
We're excited about having you here. But before we get into it, what I'd love to do, and I hope this doesn't put you in an uncomfortable situation, I'd love for Dale.
I don't. I hope it's uncomfortable for it.
I would love Dale to sort of give a formal introduction of who Deanna Rowe and what she does.
Yeah. All right. Hey, I'm happy to do so because I'm honored that you're here. And actually, after having read your bio, it's
an impressive read.
So as a health and wellness coach, Deanna focuses on positive psychology and behavior change to help her patients and clients become unstuck. We feel like we need to be unstuck a lot. So
unstuck, that's a cool word.
You're a national board certified health and wellness coach at Aim for Wellbeing. After receiving your BA in anthropology from the University of Cincinnati, you started your career in community health and youth development with the United States Peace Corps. While serving, you empowered individuals and communities through health education and infrastructure projects. After serving in the Peace Corps, Deanna moved to Western Australia, where you worked in the community and health nonprofits focusing on counseling teens. In 2020, Deanna transitioned her career to focus on health and wellness coaching, becoming board certified in the USA and in Australia and New Zealand. Prior to joining Aim for Wellbeing, you launched your own coaching business called ReFed, where you predominantly worked with clients working through transitions in their lives.
Did we leave anything out?
No. Just to, help my fellow countrymen achieve the best versions of themselves.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks. We're very, very happy that you're here.
So let's get into it. Tell us about AIM, the Alliance for Integrative Medicine, and tell us about your role as a health and wellness coach.
So let's start with AIM. The Alliance Integrative Medicine has been a practice focused on functional integrative medicine here in Cincinnati for the past 25 years. They're led by a phenomenal team of physicians, all practicing medical doctors who have come from very long careers in clinical care, but have pivoted their practice to be more focused on a functional approach to medicine. All of our medical doctors are also medical acupuncturists, and they lead a pretty diverse team that includes chiropractic care, medical massage therapists, registered dietitians, health coaches, energy therapeutics. And
it's holistic.
It's very holistic, but it's also integrated. So being led by medical doctors, physicians, we're also applying clinical care. We're doing a lot of functional testing. We're diagnosing quite a bit. And when we can look at the full spectrum of health and wellness, we look at the full picture of somebody's health, physical health, well-being, emotional health, we're better able to identify what are the root causes that might be driving illness, sickness.
It's
pain.
a great place. I've been to AIM a number of times. My wife turned me on to it. And I have to admit, the services that I get from chiropractic as well as massage has been fantastic.
Do you think that the traditional approach to health can be a little too focused and look over other contributing factors?
It can be. And at least that's what I hear from a lot of the people who come in, and maybe they're very frustrated or they're taxed because they might have something going on and they don't know what it is. Or maybe they do know what it is, but they're not getting any better. So they want a different approach that can really take into account all the factors so that they know, so that they feel empowered and educated to make better choices about their own health outcomes. But they also want to get well, but stay well. So we work with a lot of people on pulling them out of that fire, being able to really get them well, but then once they're well, continue to maintain those better health outcomes, keep them well. So, Curt, you're the perfect person to come in and work with us at AIM, because even though we're working with quite a wide spectrum of people who maybe have a lot going on, where we really love to work is in that proactive lane, keeping people upriver, out of the fire, really optimizing their health and their wellness and focusing on longevity if that's their goal. And
so I have to ask this question. In the DNA, and having my DNA tested and trying to now figure out how that impacts what I do, how I do, what I take. Is that something that you guys are involved with?
Absolutely. Yeah, we do genetic testing. We do testing for nutritional mineral factors. We work a lot with gut health, so we're doing a lot of gut testing, hormone testing.
That's awesome.
Really, the panels that we routinely pull or use or recommend for our patients is quite extensive. The labs we work with is quite extensive. So very broad spectrum. There's not much that I would say we can't do as far as testing goes. How somebody might be genetically predisposed is very much how we work with them as far as where we're going to counsel them on those nutritional and those lifestyle pivots to better, circumvent threats to their own health, but then also to optimize their own health.
Great. Well, I guess I'll see you next week.
Hey,
So, Deanna, what lifestyle principles or choices do you promote to patients?
It's going to depend on the person that we're working with. So while we look at all these lifestyle factors, they all are important, right, in some way, shape, or form. But depending on you, your factors might be a little different from Curt, your factors, and from your factors, Adam. So you depend on that particular person and where their health is at. If they're in a really bad environment, if they're in a really moldy house and it's making them really sick, then that priority is going to be to get them out of the house. If they're
change their environment.
Exactly right. If they are in a period of stress, and that stress has gotten to a point where it's just wearing them down and down and down, and all of their neural adrenals are on the floor, then the priority is going to be to get their brain working better, to get the stress off their back so that they can function and have the energy to get through their week. If, maybe they're staring down the barrel of being diabetic, or looking at a potential risk for a cardio event, then we're going to be looking at how to control those inflammatory markers with maybe nutrition and lifestyle. So they're all important. But as far as where the focus should be is going to be dependent on what the risks are, but then also what's going well, too.
Yeah. Who walks in the door really helps map out that course for the best care possible.
We might have a whole slew of people presenting similarly. Maybe they all have prostate concerns. Maybe there's everyone presenting with the same chronic pain. But that diagnosis might be different from each and every person. Or maybe they all are, let's say, diabetic. But what got them to that stage is going to be different for each and every person. And then therefore, how we bring them out of that is going to be different based on those factors that maybe got them to that point.
I think that's so different than what I've heard and experienced in medicine. It's so simplistic in the approach of more traditional medicine. It does not look at the environmental concerns. If I'm looking at 10 people with diabetes, it is all assumed that it's all exclusively dietary or hereditary, and that's kind of it. And you're suggesting that there might be other contributing factors across the populace that you're examining.
Absolutely, and exactly that. And those factors that we take into account are really pivotal. And how we recommend care and how we go about finding healing but then maintaining wellness.
Guys, this might be a good chance to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Hey there, if you're enjoying this episode, we've got a small favor to ask. Actually, it's a big favor. Take a moment to like and share this podcast with your friends and family. Then follow the Redirect Podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It's quick, it's free, and it helps us keep bringing you great content every week. If you really want to make a difference, drop us a 5-star review. Those reviews help us spread the word and keep this community growing. So hit that follow button, share with a friend, and let us know what you think. We appreciate you more than you know. Now let's get back at it. I got to think that a large part, a much larger part than traditional medicine, is also diving into mental health.
It's a huge deal. And I would say it's a large part of our practice. It's helping them to identify what are the stresses, past and present. What are the traumas? And how has that impacted their health today? And then what does that mean to get them to a place that they are feeling really healthy? And that can be a difficult role when we're maybe unpacking stressful, emotional moments. Through a lot of the body work that we do and a lot of the referrals that we make, we've become, I think, very successful in helping people wade through those waters and find their way to a greener pasture, one that's a bit more processed from, whatever those events were.
Interesting thing for me is now that I've retired and being that, I understand holistic health. I've lived it with my wife. She's a tremendous person, has kept us healthy for many, many years, and the things that she does for us. But I am now volunteering myself to go to get an adjustment, get a massage. And I come back to my wife and said, it just feels so good. And she goes, I'm glad you're finally doing something about you, for you, versus just checking the box and going to the doctor. And for me, I look forward to those moments of coming to AIM and laying down and getting a great massage or getting treatment for, to help myself with my skeletal alignment. I know I'm doing it for me versus what I've been doing for so many years. If that makes sense to you guys, you understand where I'm going with that?
It totally does. And it leads me to a question about demographics. And I think I represent the common mentality for a lot of dudes our age. I'll throw myself into the senior category that you two guys are, right?
Welcome to our club.
Yeah. Honorary member, I think. But as it relates to dudes our age, do you find they're more receptive now than they were in days past, or is that still trending well behind younger or female?
I think so. I think there are a lot of dudes getting on the wellness train. They're like, hey, this feels really good. It might take a little bit more coaxing to get them through the door to get, say, a massage or acupuncture. But once they start to feel that benefit, then they're hooked. And some, it doesn't take any coaxing. It works for them, and that's enough to keep them to stay. Curt, like what you spoke about with your experience, what I personally and professionally have found at AIM with the treatments that we provide, it bolsters up quality of life tremendously.
And probably somewhat quickly.
Yeah. Well, sure. You get off that massage table. Yeah, you feel like you're floating on out of there and ready to really not only tackle your today, but take on your tomorrow. Yeah. So to completely digress for a minute, I started at AIM as a patient myself 17 years ago when I was a teen, and I couldn't get to the root of migraine headaches that I was having since I was a very, very young child, and went through the gamut of medications and neurologists and doctors, and nothing really worked. Wasn't getting any better. Maybe getting even worse. Begged my mom to try acupuncture because I heard that it worked. She was really apprehensive, but she found AIM. And I remember picking out a doctor. There was, I think, a team of maybe 4 at the time, and went and did a very comprehensive intake. Started receiving acupuncture, chiropractic adjustments, energy therapy. And not only did we then better understand why I was getting headaches, but then I was able to circumvent them. I became headache free for my entire adult life. And if I do get a headache, I kind of know why. But more so than, that, education and empowerment that came from, that healing journey of working on my headaches, is it brought me to a deeper quality of life that I had at a very young age. And it wasn't necessarily one that I was aware of being 16, 17, but my mom saw it. And I remember overhearing her talking to somebody who was asking her about my care. And she said very earnestly to them, they brought my daughter back. And I thought, wow, okay. Like,
what a
that
statement.
resonates. Yeah.
That's crazy. So I'm almost 54 years old, and I'm on approach for retirement. I don't feel like my health course is set in stone and not going to be able to improve it. Someone who is on approach to retirement or in retirement, what advice do you give them about setting the best course for themselves for health and wellness?
Well, let's unpack that a little bit. I can sit here and tell anyone why it's so important, but me telling you it's important isn't going to necessarily make it any more important to you. So tell me about a time when you were really sick or in a lot of pain. Maybe it was COVID. Maybe you broke something. Maybe it was a broken heart. Maybe you're stuck in your career. Maybe you had the flu and you had a really busy work week. But amuse me for a minute. Tell me about a time, any of you, where you were in a lot of pain.
I had cancer 2 years ago, two and a half years ago, prostate cancer.
That's a hard journey.
Mm-hmm. It killed my dad.
Mm.
It completely changed the orientation of care for my two sons.
Yeah.
I think the recommendation for the average male is they start getting checked in traditional fashion at 50. It was recommended because of my dad's history that I start getting checked around 40, 45. It's like 30 now for my two sons that they start getting healthcare monitoring like that. And it was tough. I mean, it's really changed a lot about the way life goes for me, because there's a lot they weren't able to correct. I had my prostate removed.
Okay.
So that's permanently changed the course of life for me.
So it sounds like, you had a high priority for change. You were staring cancer at the table, down the barrel, in the room, in your body, right? So tell me about those difficult days.
So I was experiencing what I thought were symptoms of low testosterone. And just all the terrible ramifications of being 50 years old and suffering from tragically low testosterone. And I think, don't quote me, I'm not a medical professional and I don't play one on TV, but I think the numbers of testosterone that they want you to hit is something like 700 and above, 700 to 1200. You're kind of in that ideal range. At 50, I went and got tested and I was 113. I think you have more testosterone than I was carrying at the time. And it was tragic. So I thought, oh, okay, cool. I'll get some treatment. They said, hold up, but you're an ideal candidate for replacement therapy, but you've got this PSA, your prostate specific antigen, that is radically high.
How high?
Like anything above 1 in that number,
right.
they're tracking.
Right.
Above 4 is a real concern. My first test was at like 24.
No.
Yeah. They said probably everybody agreed it was just an infection, got some antibiotics. 3 weeks later, it was 30. 2 weeks later, it was 35.
Yeah, they are.
2 weeks later, I was in for a biopsy.
Okay.
6 weeks later, I was getting my prostate removed. But my first question was, okay, cool. Once I get this done, I still got the problem of the low testosterone. That's what I'm here to fix. I don't care what you do about my cancer. I want this testosterone problem solved. They said, oh, no, you're not. You can't do that. Because the testosterone is going to feed your prostate cancer. And if we don't get it all, it's going to grow. And that was much harder to deal with than cancer itself.
That realization that all those...
There's no course correcting that.
Heavy health implications that come along with that, right? Okay. Let me switch gears on you for a minute. Tell me about a time where you had the best health day ever. Maybe it was a period in your life. Maybe it was just a really great day.
What a wonderful question. I would say probably about a year ago.
What happened?
I kind of came to myself spiritually.
Okay. And?
I had been away from church and away from the Lord for a very long time and kind of found myself, prodigal son fashion.
Okay.
Just back, and life changed. The sun was not just brighter, it existed. I was cool with it existing tomorrow. And it was really, really different. It was such an impressive, positive change that I didn't see coming.
Wow.
It was huge.
So then tell me about, I'm glad you said tomorrow, because I also want to know, how did you think about tomorrow when you were battling cancer? When you were heavy in dealing with cancer, finding your way back to health?
It wasn't just a cancer situation. It was life.
Mm.
Work was as terrible as it could have been. Like the worst it's ever been in my life. I was having long-term relationships, deep friendships, like coming to an end.
Mm.
The thing that I built was being unraveled in front of me, and I've got cancer. I was really okay with tomorrow not happening.
That's heavy.
Mm-hmm.
That's hard to find motivation
mm-hmm.
when you're not even ready for tomorrow. Tell me about what tomorrow looked like when you had come back, when you felt like you were the prodigal son, connecting when the world was brighter.
I had a brief moment of shame. How could I have ever thought that tomorrow was not existing was okay?
Mm.
But that was quickly overtaken by a reinvention of purpose and coming into presence with God again and being welcomed, being loved, and to really experience the love of the prodigal father. I got to feel that, and that was
awesome.
It was really awesome.
Yeah. So then,
and tomorrow became a wonderful thing.
Yeah. So when we start thinking about what is our biggest priority, there's two ends of the spectrum. There's priority because we have to, and it's a lot harder to arrive at that change, to prioritize our health when we have to. But when we can, arrive at that change and prioritize health and that full spectrum of all those factors, because we are experiencing how good it makes us feel, whether that's through spirituality, through community, through connection, through eating, through moving our bodies, it's a lot easier to keep arriving at that change and make that a pivotal part of your day. And no longer does it become, this priority. It just becomes a part of your day.
A desired outcome, a desired part,
Mm-hmm.
right? Something you're seeking.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think we all have those maybe activities or those things or those peoples in our life that kind of drive that desire, that keep us showing up.
So I want to jump in and Adam. Thanks so much for
pouring all that out of there.
Thanks so much for being vulnerable and opening yourself up. I mean, I learned a lot about you during that conversation, and it's great that you have great days.
Mm-hmm.
Very thankful for that. I haven't experienced what Adam has experienced, and he's younger than me. I just want to let you know. But anyway,
by a lot.
Yeah. But I have had 2 back surgeries. I know the adage, you have a healthy and a strong stomach, then you're going to have a strong back. So I'm taking care of myself in that regard. But there's a fear that I have. All right. So he's dealing with something that happened. I'm dealing with something that hasn't happened, in the aspect that I'm very physical. I love to cut wood. I love to be outside. I'm a go guy. I'm a physical guy. And I'm sort of questioning what's going to happen to me at that time when my physicality is not what I'm already seeing it. I used to play hockey. I stopped playing hockey about 1.5 2 years ago. And I realized it was a choice because I could catch an edge, go into the boards, and then I can't play golf. So I'm making now choices to make sure that I'm taking care of myself. But I also have this fear of what is it when I can't go out and work in the yard all day long and do what I used to do? And that's going to be something that is going to be difficult for me to swallow.
I think that fear resonates for a lot of people, coming into autumn years and sunset, not having that.
That was gracious. Thank you for that.
Yeah. That, we maybe once used to. Pain feels different. Physicality feels different.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about water aerobics, yoga?
But alternatives.
To get back to kind of like that fear and how do you prepare for it? Lessons in embracing it. People's bodies, they change, and we can't avoid and outrun that change. There's a lot of really great science when we're looking at longevity and turning back the clock, and that's definitely something we can explore and maybe on another pod. But the truth is nothing lasts forever.
Yeah.
And so how do we work with each other and work with ourselves to be more in the waters of embracing?
It's interesting you say that because I play golf with Dale, but we've had the conversation that, I can hit the long ball now, but there's going to come a time where my driver that used to be 320, no, probably 270, will become 170. And it's okay. Yeah, you may not score like you used to score, or maybe you move your tee box up and be okay with that. Don't let pride get in the way, but recognize that I'm still playing golf.
Or working on putting.
But it's, it's fascinating though, because I too I'm super active. Tennis, cycling, golf, any racket sport for years. Back surgery, massive back surgery 2-3 years ago, get neuropathy, things happen. Back is fine now, but it may not be golf. I've had to deal with saying, I'm at that season in my life where I'm going to enjoy cycling more. I can't run anymore. Yeah, I ran a marathon. Check that box off. But that'll destroy my knees and everything else. And I think accepting the fact that we are getting into our retirement age, and when we're in retirement, what are the things that are going to allow you to continue to be as healthy as you can? I'm giving up stuff left and right because I just can't compete at the level which my brain wants to. I'm going through it daily, I feel like, choosing to do the things that I know, yes, if I get on the squash court again, I'm going to hurt myself.
Yeah.
And having, I think, the guts to make those calls of saying, no, that's not part of here to 100.
I think there's a couple of things that that I'd like to shed some light on. One, acupuncture and nutrition can be really helpful for neuropathy. Staying active is still really important at any age, right? We got to find ways to move our bodies. So maybe you're not at the capacity that you once were, but still finding where can those pivots happen. Maybe it is just a walk. Maybe it's, a version of getting on the racket court, or a kind of more of a scaled down play, getting onto the court. Maybe it's more time in the sauna or more time in the pool, but maybe it's time in the garden. Just still finding activities to move your body is still going to be really important. But I would echo what you said, really finding what is the balance and pulling back where you need to pull back. Maybe it's not really heavy weights at the gym anymore, if that's your thing, but you're really scaling down those weights and working on repetition. Embracing that change and being okay with it. People are reluctant, I think, to allow themselves to be okay with letting some of that go. I think it's helpful to remind ourselves that that doesn't define us. You're not defined by the fact that you can't go and drive your golf ball as far as you once were able to, or, playing hockey like you once were able to, or, whatever it may be. Like, your defining moment isn't necessarily now. Your defining moment is the whole life that you live and everything that you were able to do, all along those peaks and even in those valleys.
I'm hearing you be a coach in this, but I didn't know that you existed at AIM that could talk to me about me holistically and what I'm doing. And I want to hear more about you as a coach.
So if you're coming to work with a coach, if you're coming to work with myself, then, a couple of things are going to happen. One, we're going to want to sit down and figure out what's on the map. where are you trying to get to and why? So that we can start to make a plan and then navigate how we're going to get you there. And maybe it isn't necessarily a finish line or, this ethereal place on a map that we're trying to get to. Maybe really the core of it is just putting in place those routines every day that's going to bring about, not only better health outcomes, but then also maintain them, right? We're at the core of it working on behavior change and positive psychology. So, reframing what's not maybe going so well so that we can see the positive so that it makes it easier to move forward when you're feeling stuck. It's navigating around those blocks and barriers that are keeping you from doing those things. You can't get out there and do it like you used to. So now what? Figuring out a way around that. Those are some of the lanes that I work with people on, is to break that down, make sure that they have somebody in their corner, but also act as a mirror. Chances are, we've all been through change in some way, shape, or form and got through it or found success in something that we worked really hard for. So how do we take what went well then and apply it to what you're doing now so that you can sustain that success, so that you can enjoy the ice or the greens or whatever it may be that is that place you want to get to.
Now for you.
No, curling. I was
curling.
a curling
Okay.
champion.
It's a great pivot.
I was a curling champion back in
You got
Bowling Green.
ice, you get to dress up.
Yes, and you're closer to the
there.
ice, so when you fall, you don't fall that far.
I think
there's
that's
always drinking involved at a bonspiel.
That's a great reframe. So
great reframe, but it's a great redirect.
So I hope it's okay we ask you back, because this has been fantastic. Thank you so much. If people want to get a hold of you, how do they get in contact with you or AIM, your personal business? What's the best way to reach you?
so I would say give us a call at Alliance Integrative Medicine, formally. We are presently AIM for Wellbeing. We are now part of the Christ Hospital Network. So we will have our own app here soon. So I would say we're more under the umbrella.
And you're just local here to Cincinnati.
We are just local here. So our practice is over in the Kenwood Blue Ash area.
Mm-hmm.
When people want to get a hold of you, how do they go about doing that?
aimforwellbeing.org. Check out our website. We have all of our providers, including myself, listed there. A lot of opportunities to schedule calls. I do most of those calls, so if you have any questions or concerns, I would say that'd probably be the easiest.
Thank you so much for being here, for being open. You made me see a lot of things, and there's a lot of cool things that sort of link up with what we're trying to do here at Redirect. So,
also let me echo Dale, Adam, Curt. It's been a pleasure hanging with you today. So thank you.
We want to thank Gianna DeMona and the University of Cincinnati 1819 Innovation Hub for allowing us to use the eSports recording studio to record our podcasts. The Redirect podcast music is from the Sound Gallery by Dimitri Terrace. Want more information on how to redirect your purpose in retirement? Check out the Redirect website at redirect-u.com. Do you have something you want to share? Do you have a question about your redirect strategy? Please email us at info@redirect-u.com. We want to hear from you. Check out the latest Redirect podcast episode, as well as see all of the Redirect episodes on Spotify and Apple Podcast. Until next time, remember, there is purpose in your life, so find it and go do something about it.